of your body, your life.
And the drop. Oh, banger. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make driving techno in the style of Charlotte de Witte. As usual, you can download this project file, all the samples completely free below this video, and this is what we'll be covering. We'll be creating a rolling kick and bass line. We'll be creating a classic TB303 acid line from scratch. We'll be working with percussion, some old school but classic vocal effects, and mixing and arrangement. Before we get started, I want to say a huge shout out to our Accelerator students who have achieved some incredible things this year, accruing millions and millions of streams, getting released on some of the world's biggest labels, and even touring the world as DJs. Hats off to you, you put the effort in and you got the results. Okay, without further ado, let's hop into the door and get it done. Okay, so first thing we need to do is set the tempo. We're going to set it to 130 BPM, a nice techno tempo, and then we need to name this bad boy. So it's a nice sunny day, isn't it? What should we call this techno in the style of Charlotte de Witte track? We will call this Techno Sun from Me. Okay, right, next thing we need is a nice big fat techno kick. So this is really important, the kick that you pick. So I'm actually just going to pick a nice big 909 kick like that. And we're just going to loop this boom, boom, boom on every kick, like so. Then I'm going to turn it down because we don't want to have clipping on the master channel. Next thing we need to do is color this, keep everything organized, super important. And then we want to create the bass line. Now you've got two choices when it comes to techno, really. You can create a techno rumble, or you can create a bit more of a rhythmic bass line. So I'm going to call this bass. Imaginative, I know. And I'm going to make a rolling bass line for this. So what I'm going to do is do this with Serum, like so. And I'm just going to program in a bass note on every 16th. Like so. And I'm just picking F sharp because why not? So at the moment, this is going to sound like a prolonged saw wave, which doesn't sound very good. So what we need to do is start shaping this and make it into a pluck. So I'll take the release down. It doesn't matter which synth you use for this, guys. And then we'll make it mono because we don't want those synths bleeding into one another. Let's take it down an octave. Okay, cool. So I actually want to make this wide, so I'm going to add some unison and add a filter. A bit of an envelope, I think, I'll put on the filter. That's cool. Now you could have phase cancellation issues in the low end. That's a bit complicated for this video. So what I'm going to do is put a sub bass on there. I'm going to hit direct out. So that sub bass is going to avoid the effect I'm about to put on. And then we'll go to the effects section and we're just going to take out the low end. So our wide stereo sound is having the low end taken out. And it's just this sub bass. Nice. Cool. Okay, next thing we need to do is create those techno hats. So techno tends not to have a clap on every other kick in the way that house music does. So that kind of makes things a bit simpler, but it's all about the texture. We've got to get that texture right. So I'm just going to, how that one will do, I'll just go with a hat or a shaker. I quite like that. And I'm going to program that in on every 16th. So nice and simple. At the moment, it's going to sound a bit rubbish, but that's okay. That's what we're here to fix. So we want to add some movement to this. The easiest way to do that is to add a sidechain compressor, which is going to duck the volume of this hat in time with the kick. So I've already set up a sidechain compressor. You just need a normal compressor. Most in any DAW will have a sidechain feature. And then in Ableton, at least, you hit this little button here. I've already named it SC Comp, but it's just a normal compressor. Now I'm going to take the audio from this sidechain trigger track, which is just a short, sharp tick that we can never actually hear because I've got it set to sends only. All this is going to do is trigger the compressor. So now let's have a listen and bring the threshold down. So now we can hear it bouncing in time with the kick. Lovely. Let's add some texture and add some more hats in there. I know I wanted to call this something, but I can't call it that because I'll get banned from YouTube, and quite rightly so. So I'm not even going to utter what I was going to call this project. The more imaginative you can use your imagination. Okay, let's go. Now let's program this in between each kick. Here we go. In the same way that house music does. Let's have a listen. Nice. We already feel that techno feel coming through. Now what we want to do is add a ride cymbal as well, just to add that high-end sizzle in those drums. I like that one, classic sound. So let's pop that there. And this is going to go on every 8th. So these are on 16ths, and so an 8th would be half as long, so like this. And we want these not to run into each other as well. Whoops, I've done that the wrong length somehow. So let's just make sure it's exactly an 8th. And then what we're going to do is make sure there's no release on this sample setting, so that when this point occurs and that first one finishes, the second one starts and it cuts off the first one. So it's nice and tight. So let's put voices to 1, and that means only one can play at a time. And let's just feed that in. I'll just add a little bit of attack there as well. Not too much, just to allow the kick to pop through a bit. And let's take out the low end of that ride, because you don't need the low end in the ride. It's just that sizzle that we're looking for. Oh, it's like Christmas come early. Okay, next thing we need to do is the all-important 303 synth. Now, I'm going to use another Serum for this, but it really doesn't matter which synth you use. You can use the stock synths if you like. I just like Serum because it's easy to see what's going on in the signal flow. And I'm going to base this on her remix. Well, I say hers. Her and Enrico Sangiuliano's remix of Age of Love. So let's bring down the volume and get started. I don't know if it's in the right key. But if you're using Ableton, and in fact any DAW nowadays, if you've chosen your key, so ours is F sharp, so I'll hit scale, I'll go to F sharp, and I'll choose minor because it's techno, so it's probably going to be in minor, maybe Phrygian, but we'll go with minor. And then we can hit scale, and then we'll never hit a wrong note, because all of these notes are just within that scale. And let's just, this might be the riff actually. I might take this and duplicate that, and we're going to work on this later. So it's not going to be the 303, this is going to be our extra synth riff, because we want every riff kind of bringing together the same idea to reinforce that idea. So with the 303, I'm just going to make this kind of bounce around from an octave to an octave. So we've got an octave down. That's too high, I think. So I could just have it do this. And that's going to give some real energy. So let's just repeat that. And at the moment this is just a saw wave, so we need to make this sound a bit more like a TB303, classic dance music synth. But there are better emulators out there, but I want to do it all within Serum because I know a lot of you guys and girls have got it. So let's tighten this sound up first, make it mono. Let's bring it down an octave, I think. Make it a bass line. Add a little bit of portamento. Okay, now let's add a filter envelope, kind of like we did for the bass as well. Okay, now the most important thing when it comes to a 303 is, a nice fat distortion. Not the most important thing, but add a important thing. Oh, let's put a hyperdimension on as well. Just add some stereo width. Just gives it a nice cool sound. Now let's add the distortion. I'm going to add quite a harsh one. That's cool. Because listen what happens when we add some resonance. Now we start to get that 303 sound. That's pretty hardcore though. Maybe I'll just mix a little bit of that in. No, that's pretty cool. Yes! Love it! Okay, now I'm going to add an extra distortion unit on there, just because you can stack distortions. You can stack distortions if you want. So I'm just going to add a little bit of drive and crunch with this drum bus. Turn it down a bit. It's getting a bit loud now. So it's just driving it a little bit more. And now what we want to do is we can automate this now, which we'll get to shortly in the arrangement. Cool. Okay, next thing we want to do is add a little bit of interest to that with a bit of delay. So I'm going to use the echo, and just to make it bounce left and right a bit. So I'll choose notes and sixteenths, and then just to feed a little bit of that in with very little feedback, just so it bounces side to side. Ping pong mode. Maybe I'll leave off that drum bus for the time being, actually. Okay, next thing we want to do is add a sidechain compressor to that, just a little bit, so it matches in with everything else in the mix. Cool. So I'm just going to copy the sidechain compressor we already got sorted out for those closed hats. Nice and easy. So now it's bouncing in time with our track. Excellent, sounding pretty good. Okay, next thing we've got on my magic list is the choral, I guess you'd call it melody. Let's call it choral. And this is going to be the melody that is from Age of Love. And this is going to be in the break section. So we'll just move this over here. And we already know which key we're working in, right? It's F sharp minor, so that makes things easier. Because when I've actually finally managed to use the mouse correctly, then we can program it in. So what I'm going to go for is a contact. But you need a sip of coffee in your life, really. Delicious. Even better from that EDM Tips mug. Right, so we're looking for like a choral R sound. So I'm going to go in and use just one of these defaults, and it sounds like this. No, it doesn't, Will. It sounds like this. Some of you will recognize that sound from Age of Love. It's not exactly the same, but it's close enough. You know, it's a woman going ah, or, you know, a choir, whatever. So now we can hit scale F sharp minor again. That's going to make it easy. And let's just work out what these notes should be. I know that's some of them. Let's program them in. And then it goes do do do. So you can see how easy it is when you're using scale mode. And then it changes there. And then that's a longer one. Okay, let's actually write out this entire sequence because it does change a bit as well. The idea here really isn't that we're just copying a track. In your own track, you basically want something that differentiates the breaks from the drops in techno. And this is quite a melodic techno track. Do, do, do. Okay, there we go. Excellent. And then it carries on a little bit. Just the last part of this. You don't need to spend as much time on this as me. Okay. And then resolving down on the root note of the track. on that F. And then we can go back into the drop after that break. So now we've got that, we want to create a stuttering kind of transforming effect, transforming like a mixer if you're DJing, just turning the volume on and off really quickly. So the way we're going to do that in Ableton is to use a trigger track, and this is going to give that trance gate sound. So what we want to do is create another synth on here, and it doesn't matter again which synth you use, I'll just use the operator to show you, but we want a short sharp sound that just stops and starts. So we just take the release down, so it's very on and off like so. And it doesn't matter which note we hit either, it's just the actual volume of the signal coming through that makes a difference. So let's just program it in. So we want that but let's make a little bit of a gap between each of these so you can really hear when that next note comes in, like so. And what we're going to do now is assign that trigger track to a noise gate. And the noise gate is just an effect that will close off a sound when it goes beneath a certain volume. But we're going to use it in sidechain mode, which means it's going to be closed and opened by this sidechain trigger. So let's put the gate on our choral sound, like so. Open up this button here, sidechain button, take the input from our trigger. But we now need to make sure this trigger is set to sends only, because we don't want to actually hear that synth going doo-doo-doo. We just want it to open and close this noise gate. Now I'm just going to take down the threshold and get that sweet spot. And tweak the release settings. Cool. So now we've got that effect, we can just copy it across the whole length of this vocal. Let's just double that up to be quick. And now check this out, it's really cool. And let's add some, there we go, see? I'm going to add some reverb to this choral sound as well. I've created a room reverb and a hall reverb on the auxiliary channels. This is just a reverb, 100% wet, quite a long decay time because it's a hall reverb. I'm just boosting up the volume a little bit and then taking out the low end, and let's feed some of this choral sound into it. Just to smooth it off. Sweet. Nice. Okay. Next thing we need to do is really build up everything around this little riff that's going do 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 do. So we looked at that riff earlier. So let's now actually make it into a sound that we're going to use in the mix. So what I'm going to do is open up Serum. I want to create more of a plucky sound, I think, with more release, like so. In fact, we could make this into a secondary bass line. Let's do that. Oh, I'll do that in a minute. Let's make it into a riff first. So I'm going to keep it higher up in the frequency spread. I'm going to take on another envelope onto the filter, like so. I'm going to change this to I think I'll change it to a different wave type. So this is a sine wave, very smooth. That's a saw wave, quite harsh and buzzy. And that's a triangle wave. So I'm going to use a triangle wave for this and add some unison and detune it. Cool. I might add another oscillator as well. Make sure it's sent to that filter. That might fight with the bass. I'll just turn it down a bit. But it gives it more texture, doesn't it? Now let's listen to it with everything else. That's cool already. Let's take that 303 down. Take the filter down. Cool, already sounded good. Now let's add some reverb to that riff. I'll add a shorter reverb, so I'm feeding it out to my room reverb, done exactly the same way as the hall reverb, but with a much shorter decay time. And we can use some of that on the 303 as well. It's going to tie it all together a bit. So this is with the room reverb off. Just a bit dry, and this is on. So all together. Cool. Okay, next thing we want to do is add that bass line. So I'm just going to duplicate that riff, bring it over there, and I'm going to call this mid bass. So this one's more like the sub bass, and it's just another bass layer, but because it's a mid bass, we want to make sure it doesn't fight with our sub bass. So I'm going to take out everything under 120 hertz. So it's really just the mid character of this bass. So this is our normal bass. And now let's add some more of this mid bass. Obviously it's the same sound we've currently got for our riff, so we'll change the sound a bit. That's cool. And then we'll add a sidechain compressor to that, just to make it bounce a bit. Now we've got, so it's starting to thicken up now. Maybe from that riff I'll put some hall reverb instead. No, it's too long, I think. Sounds cool though. But that means I'm gonna put a sidechain compressor on that hall reverb too. So it's bouncing as well. Just a bit though, with less ratio. That's cool. Okay, last thing we want to do to create this looped drop before we get to the vocals and the arrangement is a beep. I know, creative, right? Let's have a sip of coffee to help us. So with that beep, it's pretty much going to be just repeating that rhythm that our trigger is playing. So in fact, I'm just going to copy it over there, like so. Color it synth. Color it synth? What are you talking about, boy? Color it cyan, the natural color of synths, like so. And let me know, guys, if you're enjoying this so far. Give me a hell yeah or an amen, brother, in the comments if you're feeling holy, and we will get this track done. So now we're going to go to Serum, and let's just listen to this beep. All I'm going to do is change this to a sine wave and make it much higher. So that's all we're going to have, and it's just going to be low in the mix with some reverb. But listen what it brings to the track. Just more texture, and now when that 303 opens up, listen to this. Like, sounding pretty cool already. And we haven't been doing this for very long. Okay, next thing we want to do is get to the arrangement. So we've already got this. Well, we can hide this trigger track now. We've already got this in our break. Let's smooth that sound a bit. Now, the way I'm going to smooth it is just add a little bit of release on this trigger track. And a little bit of attack. Just stop the clicking. Okay, that's not working. So what I'll have to do instead is adjust the gate controls. A bit of attack. Just to stop that clicking a bit. Or reduce it at least. Okay, now we want to add a secondary bass. Yes, no, a tertiary bass. It's my first use of the word tertiary in any of these videos over the years. Now we want to bring in a Reese bass, and that is like a sustained modulated bass. That is just going to be in the break. And that's to really enhance these chords. So let's add another Serum. I'm just going to have a saw wave, add some unison, make it quite detuned. Like so. Let's turn it down. Put a filter on it. And you got yourself a Reese bass. Job done. And now let's use the bass notes of the track. That's sounding cool. Okay, we'll have to start this from the beginning then. Nice, sounding good. Cool. And now we're going to enhance this further with some really lush strings. And that's going to be an important part of making this a really hands in the air moment. So let's get some strings in there. Again, you could use any stringed instrument. I'll use some of the Ableton strings that come with Ableton. So I'm going to go to packs. Then I'm going to look for strings. I can't spell strings today. What's wrong with me? Okay, let's go to orchestral strings, sounds, strings ensemble, and yeah, let's just get that on there. Now draw these chords in. The easiest thing to do to draw chords after selecting scale mode is just to use the bass notes that we've already used and then build those chords on top of them. So let's color this purple. We're gonna put the strings and the chords together, I think. So let's just copy these bass notes and build our chords up from there. Okay, for this chord here, we're going to have to use a borrowed chord because this is now a minor, but I think we want this to be a major. So I'm just going to move this third up. No, that's wrong. Because the melody isn't necessarily hitting the bass notes. So this is what it should be. The re-space is hitting the bass notes. Add some reverb. Nice. And of course you can have little effects in the background. And now what we need to do is bring in the vocal. I'm going to use the vocal from Age of Love as well. So, and then we can keep that going. Why has that stopped? That's just completely stopped. Because we didn't extend the trigger, of course. So that trigger has to be present now wherever our choral sounds are happening. Okay, let's color that blue. Okay, and this is where the vocals are going to come in. So I'm just going to go and grab those vocals from the original track, and then I'll be back in a second.
One eternity later.
Okay, so I've brought in the vocal. Let's color it purple, the natural color of the human throat. That's a weird color, isn't it? Not purple in general, but that weird dusky mauve. If your throat looks like that, see a doctor. Okay, here we go.
Come on, dance with me, move your body, your legs a bit.
Okay, let's add some extra doubling up of that actually. So we've got a second vocal track, Fox 2, and we're just going to double this vocal up like this to really build that tension. So it's going to do this.
Come on, dance with me, come on.
That's too loud. So now it's going to do this.
Come on, dance with me, move your body, your legs with me. Come on, dance with me, move your body, your legs with me. Move your body, your legs with me.
And then we can go to the drop. Okay, cool. So let's build that drop up. And we don't want everything coming in at once. That would be craziness. So what we're going to do is just pare it down to, I think, the not having the riff, but just the 303. Maybe not even the drums. Oh, we could have the drums there.
Move your body, your legs with me. Move your body, your legs with me.
I think just that's a banger, yeah. But we want that 303 right down. So now we're working on the arrangement. Let's use some automation, which is very important when it comes to keeping the interest alive over several minutes. Let's add the drive. So we're going to start right down low there. So what I'll do is hit this button here, hit configure, and then hit the control I want to automate. In this instance, the filter cutoff. And for this drop, we are just going to start that filter right down low.
Move your body, your legs a bit.
So it's an absolute banger. Bit loud though. Let's make this mid bass stick out a bit more as well. So I'm going to add some distortion to that. Really quickly, let's add some amp. I love this plugin, it's great. Before the EQ, because it's going to add a lot of low frequencies. And let's just fatten up this mid bass. Ooh, instant yes. Ah, yes, yes, yes. I might add one of these amps to the 303 as well, actually. Now we're cooking with gas. Let's open that filter up. I'm just going to jam here. This is sick. Now I'm getting excited. This always happens towards the end. I'm just like arranging as I go. I should probably be recording the actual arrangement, but I'm just digging it now. Open up this filter again, and then we'll bring in the vocals in a minute. Next. There we go. And then back to the drop. Yes. And then we got the beat there as well. This is just jamming. And then we're going to go to the break now. But we won't have a little break. Now let's bring in the respacer. Yes. A bit funny because I was kind of doing it at the same time. Now let's duplicate. Oh no, taxi! Have drums, snares.
Come on, dance with me, move your body, your legs a bit. Come on, dance with me, move your body.
And then back to the drop.
Move your body, your legs a bit.
Sweet. Okay guys, that's pretty much it. I'm going to do a bit more work on this and then I'm going to make it available for you to download. Just want to make it sound a little bit better. Opening up. Yes. Woo. Oh, yes, I enjoyed that very much. If you enjoyed it too, why don't you give me a like and subscribe to my channel? I'd really appreciate it. And if you'd like to get your music to a professional level as quickly as possible, then you can check out my accelerator program below this video. And if you enjoyed this, I'm sure you're going to enjoy this techno tutorial too. So thanks for watching this one, and I will catch you over there.
Come on, dance with me, move your body, your legs with me. Come on, dance with me, move your body, your legs with me. Come on, dance with me, move your body, your legs with me.